This video is brought to you by Squarespace. When it comes to websites, online stores, etc., there's no place to build a beautiful online presence like Squarespace. Alright, let's do this. I think we can all agree that you don't even have to see Olivia Wilde's Don't Worry Darling to know it's the dumpster fire movie of the year. Which doesn't entirely mean I think this is a bad movie, because I really don't think it's even close to being the worst thing in the world. It's not even the worst movie of the year. But it is undoubtedly the messiest movie of the year. A movie I could have made an entire video about before I even saw the damn thing. So, let's get into it. Don't Worry Darling is Olivia Wilde's follow-up to Booksmart. It stars Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, and barely Chris Pine. Booksmart was a great time. I even called it a modern classic when it came out, which I still stand by. Wilde seemed to just understand the current generation and used that to make what is, in my opinion, one of the most likable teen comedies of that decade. It was small scale, but it had a big heart. Don't Worry Darling is literally the complete opposite. It's massive, and it's ambitious, and it's lacking in any sort of heart. Don't Worry Darling is about a couple living in a strange 1950s utopian Palm Springs type community called Victory, and a housewife, Alice Chambers, questioning the reality of this society. Is that vague enough? It's not a movie I really want to spoil, although you can probably pick up on what there is to spoil like 10 minutes into the film. I guess I do want to touch on what does work about this first, and the first one should come as no surprise. Florence Pugh. Pugh is one of my favorite actresses working today at this point. Everything I've seen her in has just been really amazing. Each character she plays is so different from the next. And Don't Worry Darling is the kind of movie that would be nothing if not for this fantastic lead performance that completely understood the tone of the film, arguably better than Olivia Wilde did, who also acts in the film. No matter how you feel about the movie at the end of the day, or the drama surrounding the film, I think we can all agree Florence Pugh. That's the end of that sentence. She walked away from this thing pretty clean, which is honestly a miracle. Second, it looks great. 2022 has been a fantastic year for Hollywood blockbusters, and Don't Worry Darling deserves to be in that group. And I owe this film's look to Matthew Libatique, who really did what he could. It is a gorgeous looking movie. Given his track record with Aronofsky, it's unsurprising that he was able to make such a seemingly pristine setting like 1950s California feel quietly nauseating. The production design too, you can't take your eyes off this movie. I mean, it all looks great. And that is everything I liked about this. Let's stop beating around the bush here. Harry Styles, pack your bags. You have no business being in Hollywood. I swear, if any of you tell me that this is mean like you did when I said this about Noah Schnapp, please understand, Harry Styles is never going to know who I am. I'm not even out to get the guy like that. I don't dislike him at all. I wish I looked like him, but he is not doing a good job in this movie. He acts like he watched a bunch of those acting compilations on YouTube. At one point, he needs to act devastated in the car and does the thing where he just grabs the steering wheel and screams way too loud. It's not at all a believable reaction. It's very out of nowhere, clearly trying way too hard. My guy, hang it up. It isn't like Tommy Wiseau bad or something like that. He delivers the lines just fine, but that's like honestly worse. It's like watching nothing, like literally nothing. He could have been speaking in gibberish and I wouldn't have noticed. And I know you can make the argument that his character acts that way because of the story and the twist, which I won't get into. But then you look at Chris Pine, and he is really good in this movie. He seems like the only one that kind of understood what he had to do, besides Florence Pugh, obviously. I bring up Chris Pine because his character is fascinating. It's like whatever this movie's version of a evil cult leader is. And honestly, it might be a little corny, but I think it's a pretty fresh take on this type of character. And it's the only fresh take this movie has. Nothing about this movie is bringing anything new to the table ever. It feels, and call me crazy, like Olivia Wilde saw Jordan Peele's success from actor to filmmaker, from funny guy to high concept new Hitchcock guy, and she was like, I want to do that. And there is nothing wrong with wanting to do that. We all want to do that, let's be real. But in this film, at least, she doesn't have a fraction of the creativity to be on the same level as what Peele is doing. The guys wear red. That's like the most interesting choice that was made here. It's just insufferable when the movie has this kind of voice that's so like, I'm more clever than you. This is gonna go in directions you will not see coming. I think I just feel kind of tired of these modern sci-fi thrillers about utopian societies. There are plenty of great examples, obviously, but Don't Worry Darling seems to follow all of the worst cliches rather than pave its own lane. Like, oh, there's gonna be a trippy dream sequence. Let's do an eyeball effect and a kaleidoscopic black and white shot of women dancing. I mean, that feels like parody after a while. The glass wall thing was cool. I'll give him that. I like that. But for the most part, a lot of these glitches in the Matrix moments feel like parodies of A24 horror movies. I mean, it's already been said that this is Pugh's second time having to react to someone suiciding off a high ledge. The thing is, you can follow these cliches and get away with it, but Don't Worry Darling is a movie that is entirely supposed to work as a mystery thriller. And when your presentation is so on the nose and by the books, we see right through the fact that this whole society is manufactured, leaving no room for wonder or thrill. And when the film is already pretty poorly paced, I mean, there's there's like 30 minutes in the middle of this where nothing seems to really be happening, you just come out a little bit bored. You don't really feel anything until the twist, because hey, a twist, even if it was one of the most predictable major twists in recent memory, is always fun to watch unfold. And I'll give the movie credit, even if it was kind of obvious where this was going, the way they did the twist was pretty fun. But as a whole, I walked away from this movie feeling strangely unmoved for what seems like the kind of thing where you'd be wanting to run back and watch it over and over again to pick up on everything from earlier in the film, now that you know the twist. Thematically, as urgently pro-feminist as it comes across, the themes and ways in which it chooses to explore them feel largely unoriginal. The film will introduce ideas like men control society and men control technology, and that will lead to more extreme misogyny. If you live in a society in which you feel comfortable in, how do you bravely take a stand against the inequality within that society? Olivia Wilde kind of directly acknowledges her bland approach to these topics in this Colbert interview.
I think that the point of the movie is that it's like, who is actually brave enough to question a system that really works for them in a really amazing way? A comfortable world. We're all really good at being comfortable in bubbles. And that's what we were trying to kind of unpack.
When you're coming from this extremely bland angle where you're already kind of acknowledging the ways in which the world really feels comfortable, but you feel like you have to do something about it, it's hard to feel a sense of urgency for what's happening in the movie. Because if the voice behind the movie is like, fuck it, I would live in the hellscape my film is about, what does that say about the ways in which the hellscape is portrayed in the film? Not hellscapey enough, I'll say that much. Which isn't to say what happens to Alice in this film isn't horrifying. It's objectively awful, but it feels unaffecting because it sets up this abuse and these bad things keep happening to her character, but it never actually feels like it goes far enough to say anything about what's happening or what these things mean. How does her character grow? It feels like she just finds out what's happening and it needs to get out. Again, even though this sounds very angry, I don't think the film is awful at all, because even if it isn't packing the punch it should, it is still fun and nice to look at. At the end of the day, you could go into this just looking for a good popcorn movie, and this film does deliver for the most part in doing that. But even from that perspective, because of its inability to commit to any of its stances on things, the film never really feels like it goes far enough to be thematically satisfying or just interesting. You get this massive high concept presentation, but none of the filling to digest for hours after you leave. To wrap things up, in this interview, Olivia Wilde makes the case that nobody is asking male directors about their casting crew dramas, and she's right. This is an ongoing issue, and if Olivia Wilde was a man, I'm sure the drama surrounding this film would be a lot more tame than it is. But she also uses that statement to dodge this question of if there's any bad blood between her and Florence Pugh, and to dodge the answer to a real-life scenario that directly deals with themes not too dissimilar to those in the film. To replace that with this hard-to-disagree with feminist statement is just extremely appropriate coming from the director of a film that says a whole lot of shit but does very little. Do I think Olivia Wilde is getting too much hate these days? Yes. Do I think we're still allowed to call her movie a mess? Absolutely. And that's what I gotta say about that. Thanks for watching. Go watch Don't Worry Darling and form your own opinion, and before you head out, I want to thank this week's sponsor, Squarespace. Now, Squarespace, if you didn't already know, is a place where you can go online to build that brand of yours, whether it be an online store, a blog, a portfolio, you name it. They have professional portfolio designs where you can create galleries for that work of yours, as well as password protected pages for clients. Personally, I'm a big fan of their video block feature, which allows me to showcase some of my favorite videos and films in a way that looks really nice. Plus, they have a built-in mobile web designer, which makes it so that any website you make will look great no matter what platform it's on, while still matching that unique style of yours. But the best part about it all is that if you go to squarespace.com/Karsten, you can get 10% off of your first purchase. So seriously, give it a chance. It's a great place. I've used it. My friends have used it. My family have used it. You got to check out Squarespace. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you in the next one.